For Action News, I'm Anna Samovska. It's estimated that 1 billion people worldwide suffer from undernutrition, with 1 in every 4 children lacking the protein they need. Out in the West, water shortage now in its 3rd year, significantly reducing the production of crops. In challenging times like these, it's important to enhance productivity backed by sound science, and biotechnology could be the answer. Agricultural production quadrupled worldwide in the second half of the 20th century, thanks to the use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and selective breeding, including gene splicing. Farmers have used these techniques for decades, and over the past 20 years, scientists discovered ways to do this faster and more precisely. Enter biotechnology, the ability to modify genetic material of living organisms to allow adaptation to poor growing conditions.
The tools of biotechnology, we can introduce traits into crop plants that will allow them to grow and be productive under incredibly stressful conditions. Clearly, water stress is a majorly important under drought conditions. And for example, in Davis, we have introduced a specific gene that will allow plants to basically pop back to life after being deprived of water for up to 15 days. So the control plant is dead as a doornail, and the plant with our resurrection gene in it comes right back to life when you re-water it. Another example in the same vein is plants that are resistant to high salt conditions. Now, irrigation is wonderful and it's used worldwide, but the one big downside of irrigation is it leaves salt behind. What's happened to a lot of arable land, and indeed up to 20% of arable land in California, is no longer arable. It has been depleted because of high deposits of salt. And again, here at Davis, we have developed a technology that literally, the product of the gene, literally pumps the salt into a vacuole and protects the plant.
Studies, time and time again, have shown the process is safe and doesn't pose risk to human health. ACTIA's latest ag biotech publications echo that message.
I think in many cases, consumers don't understand how significantly breeders have been modifying plants at the genetic level for centuries. The fact of the matter is, long ago we moved beyond simply being able to mate one corn plant with another corn plant to the point where we are very commonly introducing entirely new genes into crop plants using conventional techniques. What makes gene splicing or genetic engineering techniques different is the fact that we have much more control over the genes that we're moving, so that we have a better ability to introduce a useful trait into a crop plant while not disrupting the normal processes of the plant cells in a way that older forms of conventional breeding might have done.
Unfortunately, progress isn't always accepted. Most recently, anti-GMO activists led by Greenpeace stormed and destroyed a golden rice test field in the Philippines, halting process in the supply of vitamin A to those in dire need. Then there's the question of labeling genetically modified foods, with many activist groups backing the consumer's right to know.
Consumers have a right to know things, not just that they are curious about. If everything a consumer were curious to know were required to be put on a label, you would have to hand out a short book with every package, because an enormous amount of science is already, and engineering has already gone into making that food product. And so what the FDA has done, and the courts have held so far that this is the correct approach, has said consumers have a right to know anything that affects health or safety, or represents a material difference between one product and another. So if I were to change a product, I should tell the public about that. They have a right to know that. If it has a different composition, I mean, if I substitute one chemical or one vitamin or one amino acid or one ingredient for another that's normally been in a product, yes, the public has a right to know that. People don't understand what a GMO is, how it's made, what the implications are, and therefore a label would be misleading, because in most cases, a consumer's perception of what a GMO is has been shaped by misinformation or lack of information. So no, the label is not a meaningful way to know anything for most consumers. Maybe that's one of the reasons we wrote this rather lengthy paper for consumers that are interested and really want to learn. It will help them understand, the underlying science and what it's all about.
The topic of biotechnology is much, much more complex than what we can explain in this video. That's why we urge you to head to our website, acsha.org, that's acsh.org. You can read and download the 3 versions of our publication. Unfortunately, it's so much easier to spread fear over the safety of GM crops than to actually find the science to back your claim. And the reason is clear. GM food is safe to grow and eat. For Aksha, I'm Anna Samovska.